All right, guys, welcome back to Walk-Ins Welcome, and we have a special guest today, Marcus. He is actually our Google Ads specialist inside of our company. The funny part is, we actually recorded this episode probably a month or two ago, and the recording was garbage. The file messed up, something happened, and Hannah was like, "Yeah, we can't use that. Sorry."
Second time's the charm.
Let's hope so, right? We'll just find out shortly. Anyway, but today, we went back and looked at some of our notes. We're like, okay, maybe we can make it better since we have to redo it. And we actually decided to come up with the top 5 things that you should know about Google Ads before you start running yourself, because we're making an assumption in this episode that you have thought about Google Ads as a company, and you're either thinking, I'm going to run them myself, or I'm going to hire somebody. And these are 5 things that you should consider while you're thinking about doing that. And this will essentially save you money and time, and hopefully make you have better decisions with the ads themselves. But Marcus, welcome.
Well, thanks for having me. A second time, as it were.
The first time was a ghost. First time was just a ghost.
Well, it's kind of nice. We just had a big Google Ads changeover June 1st. That kind of been long announced, but most people didn't pay attention, and this is a good tip to start off with everyone. Google Ads switched to what's known as responsive search ads on June 1st. Time flies as hard as y'all work me, I'll be real honest. But with that, what that means, instead of your old 3 headlines and 2 descriptions type of thing, we've switched where now it's 10 descriptions or 4 descriptions and 10 headlines, and it's constantly going through all of that. We found that to be much more successful. But the biggest thing you need to go check right now, if you haven't, or if you're paying somebody to do it or doing it yourself, if you still have those old type of ads, those are no longer supported and your performance is going to suffer.
So just as a quick note, just if you are listening the first 60 seconds of this episode, if you've been running ads for a while and you haven't checked them, that's a problem. It's going to become a real problem very soon.
My job would be much easier if Google had one set of instructions and never changed what they wanted. But then I wouldn't have as much to do.
I'm about to say, like, job security gets kind of weird at that point.
It does help.
So, all right. So we're going to go through top 5 things today. And just to kind of give a synopsis real quick of what these things are, and we'll go into detail. Number 1, start with an end in mind. Number 2, are you making money with your ads? That's a key thing. We'll talk about cost per acquisitions and things like that. Number 3, clicks and leads are greater than impressions. There's so much there. Number 4, track. If you're not tracking anything, how do you know if you're successful? And number 5, don't set it and forget it. And Google does not know best. So it's a lot of these things right here, like they seem, in our eyes, they seem like common sense. But for some people, never thought about it, because even when we were actually at an internal thing where we were trying to get Google Ads certified for multiple people in the company just to have it. And a lot of the questions inside the certification were just marketing and business oriented, not necessarily Google Ads 100%. So, but let's start with that first one. Start with the end in mind. What does that mean?
Well, at a basic level, that means if you don't know what you want to accomplish with Google Ads and you just say, oh, I should probably run Google Ads, don't. Like that's the clearest way I can put that. Because if you don't know what you're looking for, nothing, like you can't measure success. You don't know what you're doing with that. And as far as that goes, I want more customers. That's technically a goal, but that's not really a goal. That's not an actionable goal.
Yeah, because I mean, when we have sit downs with our clients, they, well, I want more patients, I want more leads, I want more whatever. Well, we need more behind that. We need to talk about how much are they actually worth, and what does that mean? And anyway, but yeah, it seems like a common sense question, but some people don't slow down enough to actually think about it.
A lot of Google Ads, and I'll freely admit this, it's small, simple things that you may not think of. They do seem, inconsequential, but they really determine your performance. Is this successful? Is this not? It's those small things that add up to make a successful campaign. Yeah. And the thing is, the more detailed you can get with that, not only I want more sales, which sales? You probably have one product that has a 10% profit margin. You may have another that's the 50%. It's a lot easier to be successful if you have one with a $5,000 profit margin, the other's 200.
Well, and then it also defines, like, you may have a product, like you said, it may have a 10% profit margin. You sell a ton of them, but on the flip side, that higher profit margin one may be cheaper to obtain through Google Ads because people aren't going after it. So that, yeah, there's layers to that.
And that's a good point. Don't go where the competition is with that.
Yeah.
Where the way Google Ads works, it's an auction. So the more people are going after the same thing, the higher the cost will be, the less clicks you'll get. And even if you have a fantastic click-through rate, that's less leads for you. And so a lot of agencies, I hate to admit it, will go for those top 5 keywords for a thing, say personal injury law. We've looked, those can be $160 a click on average. That's insane.
Oh, yeah.
We can come in under that because you do the things people search for that aren't the top one, but are very similar, because that's another thing while we're here. People don't search the way you think they do.
No, and Google will auto suggest the way you don't think they would. It gets sometimes frustrating.
Never a dull day. We'll call it that way.
And people don't click the way you think they would click.
No.
There's inside of Google Ads, you have things like call extensions and stuff like that. And call extensions is where you can actually see the phone number. You can click on it and go straight and make a call instead of going through the ad and going to a landing page. From our standpoint, it's a great tool, but it's also a horrible tool for certain situations, and it creates chaos for certain people. A good example, we have an attorney. He does, like most attorneys, people want free advice. Well, we had that call extension on there that people were banging that thing for free advice. Give me free advice. And he said, I can't keep giving us free advice. Great, we'll turn that off. And all of a sudden, the call volume went down, but the quality went way up because they had to go the extra step. Because, sorry, people are inherently lazy. And so they took the shortest route to get free advice. So keep that in mind. If you're some type of company, medical, and you're giving out advice or whatever, or your industry has as a problem, sometimes a call extension will create more chaos than good.
I would say a call extension 99 of 100 times is a fantastic decision, but you have that one. And the really important thing with that is we've set ourselves up. You did a really good job of setting me up for 3 of the remaining 4. So, and that's the thing. You have best practices, and we'll talk about Google doesn't always know and want what's best for you. They want what's best for Google. And call extension, it seems like a no-brainer, but you need to pay attention to it. It's not always going to work, and there's no one size fits all. And you talked about lead or overall volume going down, but lead quality going up. We'll hit on that a little bit too, because a lot of people like to throw around vanity metrics like impressions, but it's not as important as you may think.
Yeah. So before we hop into the impression side, so are you going to make money with ads? We kind of touched on already, but essentially, Google Ads gives you metrics and tells you how much a cost per click is, tells you what your acquisition cost can be or is, and that's great and wonderful. Now, if you're not paying close attention to it, are you actually making money when you do get that? Like, it's awesome that you get a customer through your marketing, but how much did it cost you to get that customer? How much is it going to cost you in the future to get those customers? And is it actually worth the while? I know we had a client in the past before that it was costing him close to $100 to get a click, not even a customer. And then by the time you got to the customer, it's a couple $100. And so is it worth to him? Is he spending his money wisely? So when we got in there and we worked it down, we got it down to a much more manageable level. He able to lower ad spend, increase lead volume, and grow his business with less expenses, which is what you want. But you have to ask that simple question. If I throw $1,000 at this and it produced 10 customers, great. That cost you $100 for each customer. Now, if your profit margin is only $20, not including the marketing fees, but just $20 from like hard cost, you still lost. So, and I think some people overlook that.
And I think it's important. It does absolutely go both ways, though. We've had a client, one click led to a $400,000-$500,000 deal.
Yeah.
So don't let that discourage you, what he just said. But that's why number one is so important. And yes, there's not a random order to these things. But if you don't know what the end is, and you don't know how much money you make on your service or your product, and just in general in your business, you can't go to number 2. But once you know that, you can start looking at, here's the projected cost per click. Here is how many clicks, what's the conversion rate? And for those that don't know, that's the percentage of people that clicked and then submitted a lead form, however you set that up. We'll get into it, but that's the most important number, how many actual leads you get.
Yep.
But if you don't know all the rest, you can't figure out whether it makes sense to you.
Yep.
If you don't know how much you're making in profit, and then how much that costs per acquisition. And then you get into return on ad spend.
Yep.
Like, are you making a 0.5 to 1%, or are you like at a 10 to 1 ads or return on ad spend, which is possible if you do it right and it's a good fit.
Well, and you say return on ad spend. So for those out there, if you ever heard the phrase ROAS, and it looks funny. It's like a capital R, little O, capital AS. Return on ad spend is an important piece of the puzzle, because reality is every dollar you put in has to produce something back. And if you're not getting a positive ROAS, then you're probably losing out. But sometimes you got to measure it over time, because like you said, one client, one customer could pay for it all. And was it worth the tens of thousands of dollars to get to that one or not? You know, sometimes, because we've had situations where we brought on a client and we didn't know, like we didn't have data to show, like, will this be successful or not? And we had to spend money to find the success. Other times, like we work a lot with urgent care, so we know what works and what doesn't. So we spend a whole lot less time and money finding what success looks like, so we've already done it. But it's something you have to think about, because if marketing was that simple as 1 + 1 = 2, it's such a
we wouldn't have a job.
You're right, and it wouldn't be like we have people all the time. Well, if I'm spending this much money on marketing, I'm not going to win. Like, if that was the case, everybody would do that. If they knew they were guaranteed, they put $1 in and got $5 back. But marketing isn't that way.
You know, and we do actually really live by that. That is not just a marketing phrase, because we have told a customer, no, if you spend more in ad spend here, they wanted to spend more, it's not really going to be worth it, because we can see if you're not maxing out, more money isn't going to change.
Yeah, and we've seen, like, maybe instead of doubling your budget, you only increase it by 20%, and it doubled your lead volume without doubling your cost.
We've doubled lead volume off like a 6% increase, because once you reach that daily budget, your ad stopped showing. But if that perfect lead came in an hour later.
Yep. All right, so number 3, clicks and leads is greater than impressions.
So this one's a little bit near and dear to my heart, and a little bit of annoyance. If you were with a bad company, and maybe this is a way to say it, like not the right fit, they'll talk about impressions. So what impressions are,
or you buy impressions. I've seen a lot of that.
Yes.
Don't buy impressions. Just rule number 1. If someone proposes you impression channels, you get 1 million or 2 million or 5 million impressions, don't buy that.
That's more important on Facebook, but I think this is a good lead into what the difference is.
Yep.
Facebook, you're kind of almost trying to create demand, as I like to say. Brand awareness, get in front of people. Google is getting in front of people, and this is why I personally love Google. They're already looking for your service.
High intent.
That's about as high intent as you can get. So Google's more important about getting in front of the right people at the right time.
With the right connection.
So, as an example, say you only showed in front of 100 people. If you have a 20% conversion rate, that's 20 leads, 20 booked things of business. You can show them 1 million and only have 2 contact forms. You would take the 20 booked jobs or sales in a heartbeat. So impressions is just how many people saw your ad. Eyeballs, as I like to call them.
Yeah, I've heard it described as if you walk into a football stadium and it's full of 100,000 people, and you hold out your business card, 100,000 people, or it flashed up on the jumbotron for half a second, 100,000 people just saw your business card, which was 100,000 impressions, but not a single one paid attention.
Absolutely, and I think a good way to. We've had campaigns, several actually, where we've cut the impressions down by 75%, but doubled or tripled our lead volume.
Oh, yeah.
Because the less money you're wasting on showing to people that aren't really interested, or the wrong people, that's less money you're spending on the people that will convert. And that's why it's important more than anything. So remember, eyeballs don't matter. Clicks are important. Conversions and basically booked business, that's the most important of all. So prioritize that more than anything. And one of the Google Ads strategies, you have several. You have basically how you're bidding to get at the top of the page. You have maximize impressions, which honestly we never use unless they just want to get brand awareness in a very small area. We can do that. We recently had a client. They do industrial products, and there was a mining convention So this was actually pretty fun.
This was a fun one because it was super short notice and
like
hyper
literally
focused.
5 hours, everyone.
Yeah, like clients like, hey, I'm going to this event next week. Can y'all go ahead and start ads up for this tomorrow? And this is like 2:00 on a Thursday. And we're like, okay, like, can you give us some info? And he sends us, a PDF of lots of info. But you spun it up, got it going. But just in that very tiny budget they gave us.
And it was like Plano, Nevada, I think. It's a place I'd never heard of. It's a tiny little town.
Yeah, but the best part was everybody that was there for a purpose. And so it was
we found intent a different way.
Yeah, high intent. And that was what were the numbers on that? It was incredible, wasn't it?
It was in 5 days for like couple $100. It was 3 million impressions within this tiny radius around this tiny town. So even if all those people that weren't looking for it right now, they will remember.
Yeah, they'll at least say, I've seen that logo somewhere.
And because we're a little, I won't say sneaky, but we are efficient. When they go home and search Tricon or the things they sell, just not realizing why they're doing it, we're running search ads for that. So that's a good thing. In like a small confined area, yes, that makes sense, but it should never be your end goal just because somebody told you.
Oh yeah. All right. So we've gone through start with end in mind. Are you making money with those ads? Clicks and leads are greater than impressions. This one is, if I had to guess, this is probably the number one thing that most people ignore if they're doing it themselves because they don't have time to work on this. But it's tracking. Tracking is one of those things that can literally make or break a campaign in terms of performance and then overall results. Because if you're not paying attention to it, because I even say, like, when I see you set up a campaign or anything, you get it going, and then a couple of days later, like change. And some of these changes are super minor, but there's a reason behind it. And if you didn't have proper tracking in place, never would have seen it.
People think I don't have the time to set up tracking. However, you're going to spend a lot more time and a lot of wasted money if you don't know if it's working. There's a reason we put this forth, because you got to know all the other things. And once you do that, you set up tracking, because we talked about, we don't use maximize impressions. What we use is something called maximize conversions. So what that means is Google not only is prioritizing your ads for this particular keyword, but you can start to see, based on literally millions of factors, who is not only more likely to click, but who is more likely to convert. So and that's where you get more into that impressions going down, but your leads going way up, and it gets better over time. We found we knock it out of the park sometimes right at the beginning, but there's something about like day 30 to 40. That's when you have sufficient data to really maximize that. And so conversions, what is that? How do we do that? To keep it simple, I'll give you two. If you don't track anything else, this is what you need to do. Phone calls. Like a lead phone call, you need to say, hey, somebody clicked my ad and called from the Google ad.
Took action.
If you can get a tracking number through something like What Converts or all that,
or CallRail, there's a billion of them. Even does Google provide a tracking?
They do now, but that one's a little bit more. If you're not super tech savvy, that's some code impressions. So the point is, there's a whole lot of options out there. But what you do, the only thing you use that number for is on your call extension or your landing page. And because they're that way, the very simple way, because you want it to be effective, but simple. If somebody doesn't have time, you don't want to have them doing all the rest. But that way, any call that comes to that number, it's from Google Ads.
Well, and if this seems technical to you guys, just think of a van rolling down the road and it's vinyl wrapped, right? And it has a phone number on it. 9 times out of 10, that's not their real phone number. It's a tracking number that forwards to their real number. So when you call, you have no clue. They have a clue, but the reason why they do that, they want to see the return on, hey, I spent $3,000 on a vinyl wrap on a truck. Am I making money from that truck? Right? Are they calling that number? Are my guys in the right spots at the right time, traveling the right places? But allows you to say, and so like I said, simple, where in a month, hey, that phone number was called 20 times. And then within call tracking, you can see the names, the recording, you can see everything. So you can say, of the 20 people that called, only 2 or 3 were repeats. And then the rest were new. And then one of my favorite things you do with tracking is you don't even look at real conversions on phone calls until they're over a minute, because if it's under a minute, it may be spam. It
may not have answered.
May not have answered. Maybe a hang up. Maybe a wrong number. But if it's over a minute, chances are there's a conversation that's happened.
Yeah, that's a good one. And the two we're giving everyone here, those are the best possible. That'll give you everything you need to start to run everything. But all of these you can build on over time. And we'll get a little bit on that in the next one. But the other one I would track is contact or lead form submissions.
Yep.
So
name, email, phone.
And if you have a landing page funnel, which I would really recommend that way, because just so you know, when people click an ad, you've probably done this. If you can't find immediately what you're looking for right then, you're going to leave and never come back.
Or I even this very moment today, I was just bored looking up tires. I'm a car person, bought a fun truck.
He's an awesome car and a truck.
And a truck now. I was looking up truck tires because I've never bought truck tires in my life. And I'm like, I've always bought low profile tires. And I had no idea what pricing was. And I was really depressed how expensive truck tires are. But there was a situation where I put in the tire size in the Google search. And of course, Google has their Google ads, shopping ads that pop up that are paid. It said sponsored. And my assumption was if I clicked on this tire, it will take me to that website with that tire size and a price, or the price that it was displaying would be the right one. So I was like, that's a pretty good deal on that tire. Click. It's for the tiniest tire of that tire. So obviously it was the cheapest price. I was like, no, that's not right. And it didn't even have my tire size. And I was like, that was poorly set up.
And you wasted your time. You'll think negatively of that company, and you just wasted that company just wasted their ad spend.
That is spent money when I clicked. So, yep.
And the other way to do that, just think about if you give people a whole lot of options when they click an ad and then get there, they're going to take none of them.
Yep.
So the way we run ours, you have two options: the call or request your free estimate, some version of the lead form, and that's it. And it's very effective. It's almost like a narrowing of the choice to kind of help people. There's a reason it's called a funnel, right?
Yeah.
But with that, and the easiest way to track that, once you have that, once they submit a form, have them go to a thank you page and put a page load, which is super easy to track on the thank you page, because the only way to get to that is by submitting a form.
Yep.
You can get into some other ways, but it involves a whole lot of coding, and most people don't need that.
No. And so talking about choice too, I remember in a marketing class I had in my undergrad, they talked about have too many choices, you lose money. And so I want to say it was Lysol, I think it was a disinfectant brand. And they, at one point, they came out with like 10 or 15 different scents, or I say flavors, but not really flavor, but like,
I hope not.
Yeah, right. So like orange, lemon, whatever. And they realized they were losing money because people couldn't decide what they wanted, and they were spending money on inventory that wasn't being purchased. And they found out that 5 was the magic number. Anything beyond 5, they would lose money. People didn't buy it. Anything below 5, there were marginal gains. So for them in the product marketing world, 5 options. And we know too with digital, it's like we're trying to get you down to 1 to 2, and just so you don't think, because people are really impatient. Like you're sitting there in front of an aisle of product, you'll stand there for 10, 30 seconds trying to look at them. On a phone, you got 5 seconds, 6 seconds.
If that, and people will not come back if they have a bad experience on your site, because
they're like, they screwed me up there. If I click on something else, it's going to be the same problem, which might be true. So,
well, they're going to think it is, and that's essentially the same as it being true.
Yep. All right. So last one. This one I'm really particular about, but don't set and forget / Google doesn't know best. Google doesn't know best. I'm really particular about that one. We were joking earlier about, well, not joking, but mentioning that Google Ads certifications, we multiple people in our company have it now just to have it, just so we're, as a company, we're better. But going through a Google Ads certification, I'll just say this: Google thinks it knows best. It thinks its tools are the best tools in the world, and assumes that the user of their tools knows nothing. And Google, whatever Google suggests, is the right thing. And it's so far from the truth. It's frustrating.
It is. And in full transparency, we've had several now clients who thought they could do Google ads themselves, ran through all that and realized, oh, I'm wasting a lot of money with that. I think the biggest thing is Google is trying to go for the lowest common denominator. What solution will fit the widest number of people? Not everyone, the widest number of people. And we talked about earlier, there's no one set thing. Every business is unique. And I think everyone listening, do you think your business is like every other business? Is your business like every other business in your vertical?
Yeah.
No, you're unique and you have unique value propositions and doing all of that. And we talked about call extension. What generally is a good idea won't always be. So Google wants to make money. They're a corporation.
I'm say Google is a free service. Well, they can't be free forever because they're also $1 billion plus company called Alphabet. They didn't make that money for being free. They made it through paid search. That is their bread and butter. I don't care what all the other Google services offer out there. Paid search makes
with display and everything. I think it's $150 million a day they make.
Yeah. So and they design their tools to be helpful, right? They want it to be helpful. They want to be transparent with stuff, but ultimately they want to make money, and the only way they make money is when people click on something. And if it means increase your budget so your competitor has to increase their budget, Google just wins. So when we see like a competitive cost per click of like $80, Google's winning no matter what, because someone's paying that.
And I get a little feisty with that. That's why I'm always proud. When we see those estimated cost per clicks, we generally come about 65% lower than that with those. Yeah. Sometimes more. I'm trying to average it out, but that's because we do the harder work instead of just making assumptions, kind of like you're doing. It's worth it in the end, and it will be more beneficial for you in the end as well.
Yeah, and then a bad word in our company is called smart campaigns.
That's basically you go, oh, this is my business, this is my website, this is what I sell, and it does all the rest. Well,
it literally, you just plug in what you know about your business and nothing else, and it, like I said, does everything, and you just put a budget to it, and it will blast through that budget so fast. And we all know too, a smart campaign, you can sit down and set up in 5 minutes, and then you can walk away from it. You can set it and forget it, and it will produce clicks. It may not produce the leads you want, and it will eat your budget up. So if you're all about spending money and not caring the results, smart campaigns all day, it will take care of it.
I would love for smart campaigns, selfishly, I would love for that to be as good as promised, because that would make my job a lot easier. Instead, we have to do I do custom research for everything, build out the whole funnel, everything working together. It's a lot of work. We do it because that's the right thing to do to deliver results for our clients. And we know, I would love for smart campaigns to work. It'd be a lot less work, but you know, they don't. That's why we do it this way.
Yep. So if you're curious, what's a smart campaign look like? They label it smart. So if you're wondering, hey, I hired a company that run my Google ads. They seem to be doing all right. You know, we get leads. But now I'm thinking about the smart campaigns. How do I know? Well, just if you want to make it, if you want to scare your provider, say, hey, can you screenshot the Google Ads dashboard on the campaign level? And if you see the word smart,
it'll under campaign type. Yeah.
If you see the word smart, they outsmarted you.
Do you see why he's on that side and I'm on that side? That was clever.
Yeah, very fun.
But no, it's very true. That means they do the bare minimum of work, and you don't get all the editing and tweaking tools.
No,
they do on the rest too. So it's not only the beginning, it's making course corrections along the way. You can't do it.
Because generally speaking, and we know this, your campaign today will not be as good as your campaign in a month if you're taking care of it.
If you're doing it right.
Yeah, because the reality is we even tell people, when you mention performance of a Google Ads campaign only gets better with time if you're paying attention to it.
Right. And I think that's a great setup for don't set and forget as well.
Yeah.
Because the reason we had you define your goals, set up your tracking and all of that, because this is where we get to the fun part. Because over time, you'll start to see what type of person is converting, but also male, female, what age group, where do they live, income, all that, what else they're into. And you can slightly adjust. You can say, let's bid 5% more, because not only do you get a lot of clicks from there, but that person tends to convert at a much higher rate than this other subgroup. And the more data you get with tracking and all that, the better Google actually does with the rest. It's not going to be great when it has no real data to start, but if you train it, and you have to be thinking, and that's tweaking your ads, because search volume, people may be really interested in this thing here, but they start searching for it a different way 2 months down the line. And if you're not constantly looking at all that, you've lost out on a lot of leads, and that could have been cheaper.
Yep.
Because we don't go where the competition is hardest. That's stupid. That's the less return we can do. We go where the people are.
Yep.
and where they're going to be. And that's the biggest thing.
Well, I think if anything, Google and ourselves line up together where we want the user's experience to be really good. And Google rewards you every time you have a positive experience. And that experience comes all the way. Oh, my phone is thinking I'm talking to it right now. Even better. Good job, Android. Anyway, so experience is not just the ad copy itself and the keywords and making sure it shows up. It's also the experience on the landing page that you build out. Where are they getting what they thought they were getting? I was reading on the ad certifications where they'll shut down a campaign if it is obviously different on the landing page versus what if it's almost where you're what do you call it? Not cross, but it's where they swap. Like they show like a really well discounted thing, but when you get there, it's something. What is that called? That's a traditional marketing, bait and switch.
Yeah.
So when you bait and switch somebody on your ad, Google will figure that out and light you up, and then all of a sudden ban and restrict your account.
We mentioned and this is why all this is important. We mentioned that a lot of times we come out with much better than the people spending all that money, $160 for a keyword. The reason that is because how high quality, and Google can kind of tell based on your keywords, you want your ad copy to match your keywords, and then the ad copy to be on the landing page. And the landing page, if this sounds like a lot, it is, but to be a good experience and people going, Google will show your ad above people spending far more than you.
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, Google has a vested interest in people searching, finding what they need quickly and doing that, because if people stop being able to do that, over time, they would stop using Google.
Yeah. Well, and generally speaking, never send your Google ads to your homepage or your website.
No,
generally speaking, there are occasional changes to that, but your homepage is built to capture a general public, a general target audience. Your Google ads, it's the sniper. It's going after very particular targets, and it needs a full funnel there, because it has to just be a complete positive experience, because if it's a good experience just through the ad itself, they're probably going to convert.
I think that, and let's give some free landing page advice there. The reason why it's so important to have exactly what people want and have it at the very top of the page, because looking at analytics through honestly hundreds of sites and over time, it's just people don't scroll. We found maybe like 15% of people, you have the very top part scrolling down the page. Maybe 15% of people do that. So if you're making them go find what you want them to do, spoiler, they're not going to do it.
Yeah, I mentioned in a episode before, it's called cut of screen. Just like cut of the fold with newspapers, where when they fold that newspaper, they want the headline to show that captures people to pick up the newspaper to buy it. Same idea with your landing page or website. That first screen that they see on their phone and their desktop phone, more important than ever, is how they judge you if it's the right spot or not, or they want to engage with it. So anyway, this has been great. We're a little bit over on this episode. That's okay. A lot of detail there, but just as a quick reminder, what we went through, our top 5. Start with the end in mind. Are you making money with ads? Clicks and leads are greater than impressions. Track. Have to always track. Makes all the difference. And then finally, don't set and forget, Google doesn't know best. So thank you, Marcus, for being on the second time. Though nobody will ever hear the first one, but well, Hannah will. But here we are again. I'm hoping this episode works out fine and we can post it up soon. But
thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And I kind of think this was a better episode than our first recording anyway. So it all works out.
I don't remember the first one, so we're going to go with that.
Little snippets, right?
So, and if people really enjoy this and find value, I can go really nerdy and make everyone, if you really want to delve down into some of those things we talked about, I don't want to scare everyone off at first, but if you're really interested in learning more, there's a lot more.
And our entire company, we're all about educating first. So if you're running your own ad campaigns and you're like, I don't know if this is good or not, reach out to us. We're happy to just get some view access only. We can just say, hey, you may want to try this, and this. Happy to do that for you. So
we're all here because we enjoy helping people.
Yeah, exactly.
It sounds cliche, but it's absolutely the truth. We'll look through it all. I'll give you your next steps. They joke that I'm the 2 clicks person, which, here's the better way to do this. This will save us 2 clicks. So
All right,
thanks for having me.
Thank you all again. We'll catch you on the next one.